Biכורים, Perek Beis, Mishnah Beis. In Mishnah Aleph, we learnt about those halachos which apply to Truma and Biכורים, but not to Maaseh Sheni. Now in this Mishnah, we're going to turn around the combination slightly, and we're going to learn about those things which are applicable to Maaseh Sheni and Biכורים, but not to Truma. And the Mishnah starts by telling us, Yesh b'maaseh of a Biכורים, ma she'ein kein b'Truma. There are certain halachos that apply to Maaseh Sheni and to Biכורים, but which do not apply to Truma. The first one is Shahamase v'haBiכורים tu'unin havoas mokim. Both Maaseh Sheni and Biכורים require one to bring them to a specific place, meaning Yerushalayim. Maaseh Sheni can only be eaten in Yerushalayim, and Biכורים can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. In fact, Biכורים also needs to be brought first to the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, strictly speaking, the Havos Mokim that applies to Biכורים is not exactly the same as the Havos Mokim which applies to Maaseh Sheni. Nevertheless, both do need to be brought to a place, and that place is in Yerushalayim. The second case brought in the Mishnah is Utu'unim Vidui. Both Maaseh Sheni and Biכורים require a Vidui. They require a confession, a declaration to be made by the owner. In the case of Biכורים, the declaration is brought down in Parshas Kisavai, and it starts off Aram Yovet Ovi. It gives a brief history of Klal Yisrael, and it's very familiar to us from the Haggadah Shel Pesach. In the case of Maaseh Sheni, the vidui that is made starts off Bi'arti HaKodesh Min Habayis. Again, it's a posuk from Parshas Kisavai, where he gives a confession that he has taken all the trumas and maises that he needs. He's left nothing at home. Everything has been moved out and given to the correct places. This vidui, in fact, says Bartanora, actually includes the word Truma as well. The vidui that a person makes when he brings his Maaseh Sheni says, I've given all my Trumas and all my Maises. Nevertheless, Bartanora explains, the vidui is only coming because of the Maaseh Sheni. If a person didn't own any Maaseh Sheni, he only owned Truma, he wouldn't make any vidui at all. The fact that he's making a vidui now because of Maaseh Sheni, he also adds in the word Truma, but the actual vidui itself is not brought because of the Truma. The next case brought by the Mishnah is Va'asurin la'oinen. It is forbidden for a person to eat Maaseh Sheni or Biכורים whilst he is in the status of being an oinen. An oinen is, as far as the Torah is concerned, an oinen is somebody whose close relative has died. On the day of death, he has a din of being an oinen. Chazal extended that and said it also extends to the date of kavur, of burial, if that is later. So long as he's an oinen, he cannot eat Truma, he cannot eat Maaseh Sheni, and he cannot eat Biכורים. Reb Shimon matir. Reb Shimon does allow an oinen to eat Biכורים. He doesn't argue with the Maaseh Sheni. The Maaseh Sheni is a specific pasuk in the Torah. V'lo yachalti ba'oini mimenu. I never ate any Maaseh Sheni when I was in the status of aninus. But as far as Biכורים is concerned, Reb Shimon says that Biכורים has the same din as Truma. Just as Truma is allowed to be eaten even by an oinen, so too Biכורים can be eaten by an oinen. Mishnah continues and says, V'chayovim b'bir. Both Biכורים and Maaseh Sheni are mechuyev in bir. Bir means removal. That means any Maaseh Sheni or Biכורים which has not been eaten by the 4th or the 7th year of the 7-year Shemitah cycle has to be removed completely and destroyed. That's part of the declaration of Vidui Maisa that we mentioned earlier. Bi'arti HaKodesh Min Habayis. I have removed, I have destroyed any Kodesh that I had in my house, and that relates to Biכורים, and that relates to Maaseh Sheni. For Reb Shimon, Poita. Reb Shimon says no. The Biכורים does not require bir. Again, he holds of his shitta that since we equate Biכורים to Truma, and since by Truma there is no bir, so too by Biכורים there is no bir. If one does have any Biכורים left over, one must just give that to a kohen, but it doesn't need to be destroyed. V'asurim, the Mishnah continues, Kol shehein milecho b'Yerushalayim. And any minute amount of Maaseh Sheni or Biכורים cannot be eaten in Yerushalayim. What does that mean? We know that Maaseh Sheni and Biכורים can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. Pshat in this is, the Bartanura explains, we're talking about here taruvos. We're talking about a mixture. When some Maaseh Sheni or some Biכורים got mixed into some chulin, we learnt in Mishnah Aleph that if it's mixed in a proportion of 100 to 1, so there are a total of 101 units, then it's bottle and the entire mixture is mutter. Says our Mishnah that if this mixture takes place in Yerushalayim itself, there is no bittul. And pshat in the words of the Mishnah is, V'asurin kol shehein melechol b'Yerushalayim. They are forbidden, even a minute amount is forbidden, to be eaten when the mixture takes place in Yerushalayim. It can't be eaten even outside Yerushalayim. The whole bittul that we learnt about in Mishnah Aleph is only when that bittul takes place outside Yerushalayim. But once the mixture takes place inside Yerushalayim, it is no longer allowed to be eaten outside Yerushalayim and has a full din of Ma'aser Sheni and Bikurim. The Mishnah continues by telling us V'gidulehen asurim milechel b'Yerushalayim. Anything that grows from them is also to be eaten in Yerushalayim. And again, we're talking about a mixture. We're talking about a case where seeds of Ma'aser Sheni are mixed with chulin, or seeds of Bikurim are mixed with chulin, and planted in Yerushalayim. Anything that grows from those seeds has a din of Ma'aser Sheni or a din of Bikurim and cannot be eaten outside of Yerushalayim. The translation of the words of the Mishnah therefore is V'giduleihem, anything that grows from them, Asurim milechel b'Yerushalayim. It's also to eat it outside Yerushalayim when it's grown inside Yerushalayim. And so the Mishnah continues, Af lezorim v'la behema. It's forbidden to give these mixtures, whether we're talking about the mixture of the actual Ma'aser Sheni and Bikurim in the chulin, or what grows from a mixture of the seeds, it's forbidden to give the Bikurim one to a zorim, to non-Kohanim, and it's forbidden to give the Ma'aser Sheni one to a behema. In other words, it has a full din Ma'aser Sheni and a full din Bikurim, and all the halachas of both apply. V'Reb Shimon Matir. And, as we've said before, Reb Shimon has the din that Bikurim has a full halacha like Truma, and therefore, as far as Truma is concerned, it is not also to give Bikurim to eat to Zorim. Harei elu b'ma'aser of a Bikurim, ma she'en kein b'Truma. These are the halachas which apply to Ma'aser Sheni and apply to Bikurim, which do not apply to Truma. V'ad kan Mishnah Beis.